do everything like this, and after, hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have it, like, down.
But then there'll be a new program next year.
Oh, exactly. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So we have Ashley Moye here to talk to us about mindfulness, and we're very excited. And Allison unfortunately can't be here, but we want to thank Allison for helping set this up.
Yes, Allison's been awesome.
So, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
All right. Well, this will be a little different because I have people here that I'm looking at, and I feel like if I'm not looking over here, I'm ignoring my online participants, so it might take me a minute to get used to. I was telling the people here, this is a very different experience for me because I presented a whole lot in the library field, but it was always very formal. This is going to be more of an informal discussion. An informal discussion about mindfulness, emotional intelligence, how it can help you getting ready to go out in the library world, because boy, howdy is that thing crazy, and how it can help you be really successful. If you are looking for more formal instruction, you can always let the professors know here it's something that you're into. I would be happy to come back and maybe teach a class that there would be PowerPoints and things for. I know some people really like that sort of thing, especially librarians. We really like our PowerPoints. We really like our notes. But obviously that would be a much bigger conversation than what we're talking about today. What we're going to do today is going to be really experiential. The way that my group teaches mindfulness meditation is it's all about doing. A lot less talking, a lot more doing, and a whole lot of sharing. When you come into a presentation as a teacher, you're usually trying to teach someone something. When you come into a group as a mindfulness meditation instructor, you're coming in as an equal, sharing your experiences. So I would like to hear from you. Don't be scared to chime in. Those online, if you want to type, feel free to chime in on your own over there, because again, this is sort of a conversation between all of us, sharing our own experiences. We're going to do some breathing practices. We'll do one, maybe two meditations, and then talk about it afterwards. So yeah, I depend on you to say things. If you're uncomfortable doing that, it's okay. You can be quiet. So what I do is I work for a group called Youth Meditation. I was a librarian for about 10 years to the day. When I graduated library school from UNCG, I immediately went to work at the Charlotte School of Law. I don't know how many of you know the story of the Charlotte School of Law, but it is very sad. The Department of Education, when the government transitioned to its new leadership, sort of got in it with the American Bar Association, and we were the person that happened to be on the chopping block to make their point. And we ended up getting closed down over the span of a year and a half, so it was really long and torturous for the librarian team. While I was a librarian, every time I presented, the things that I wrote all had to do with emotional intelligence. Our group, the school itself supposedly was very based on emotional intelligence. Obviously, from the way things worked out, it was lip service for a lot of people, but the librarians took it very seriously. Y'all are librarians, you take things seriously, especially your service industry. You take your profession and the people you work with seriously. So we used emotional intelligence constantly at the Charlotte School of Law, and I think it helped the library be really successful. There was one year, about 7 years into it, where we lost half of our staff. We had a voluntary buyout, and we went from 20 staff members down to 10 and had to do the same amount of work with 10 people. We all had to break out of our silos. We had to learn to work together. We were without a dean for 3 years and had no one in charge of us, and we're working together on that. And we had very little staff turnover. People that were there, we all loved working together. I swear to this day, we would all still be sitting there working together. We're all still the best of friends. One of our librarians is in Hawaii, and last time he came back to visit, within 30 minutes, all of us, even the ones that were up in Winston-Salem, had started converging on Charlotte to see him again. And part of that was the emotional intelligence we brought. When they were cutting departments, the library was one of the last ones they always hit. It was because we used emotional intelligence to find new ways of being valuable. Do all of you work in libraries right now? No, I didn't when I was in library school, and it's really weird, right?
Not in library school.
it's very hard to not be a librarian, and go through all of it, because there's so many projects they give you and things like that. I had a friend who was at Bank of America through library school with me, and we were the buddies because we didn't work in a library. But libraries, everything changes. For those of you that currently work there, and for those that don't, be warned, everything changes. As soon as you learn a program, there's a new program. As soon as you learn your job, you have a new job. Doesn't matter whether you're in public services. It doesn't matter if you're in technical services. It doesn't matter if you're straddling the gap. And the trick is you've got to be comfortable with change. You need to be aware of who you are. You need to be aware of who all's on your team. You need to be aware of where you can plug in. And not a lot of people know the library is valuable. You have to go out every day and prove the library is valuable. You have to prove all of the ways that you can make things better. And that's hard to do if you don't have emotional intelligence. Now, I know I've heard that you'll talk about emotional intelligence some in management class. So what do y'all know about emotional intelligence at this point? I don't want to repeat anything. Does anyone want to give me any info, or do we not care about emotional? Have we already done that chapter, and now we don't have anything to say about it? Anyone?
I will say it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I'm in that class right now.
Mhm.
Because it's like I waited the last semester
Uh-huh.
to take it. And I just did that chapter a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Allison was doing it.
Yeah, and I realized, don't have high emotional intelligence. That made me feel great.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. From my understanding, I don't have the definition plugged in my brain,
Oh,
but
it
it's
doesn't
just,
matter. I'm not judging.
from my understanding, it's a place of it's a place where you're operating from understanding how you emotionally react to something, but not letting that reaction take control.
That is a great way of putting it.
Okay.
Brilliant, brilliant. And the fact that you said you have low emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
not a big deal. The great thing that I love about emotional intelligence, based off of regular intelligence, is emotional intelligence you can learn. It's literally learnable, and they've proven it scientifically. It's called neuroplasticity. The things we pay attention to and the ways we choose to use our brain literally changes the structure and the function of our brains. So if you're not good at emotional intelligence, you can be. You just have to practice. Now, emotional intelligence is sort of two buckets. You've got this interpersonal bucket, which is your empathy, your social skills, your ability to work as a team, that sort of thing, your ability to communicate well with people. And then there's their intrapersonal, which is how aware you are of all the things happening in you, how well you are at regulating it. Can you stop yourself if you're about to have a negative response? Do you notice you're about to have a negative response? And also a good understanding of what motivates you. Are you someone that really likes praise? Are you someone that wants autonomy? So you can see how with all these different pieces, if you've got these social pieces of it that are going to help you work well with other people, if you've got these understandings of yourself and who you are, what you're good at, what you're not so good at, and you know that you're capable of, with those things you aren't so good at, working around them, they're not going to get in your way, that can be really, really powerful as you're walking through your profession and your personal life. You can have a lot of compassion for the people around you. You have a really strong drive. You can motivate yourself. You can trust that you're not going to have counterproductive responses if someone does or said something negative. And a really great thing about emotional intelligence, my favorite part, and the reason that I thought it was so important for librarians, is it helps you deal with change. The year before I left the library field, I did a presentation at the American Association of Law Libraries. I'd gotten asked to be on a panel talking about what quality or what skill do you think that the legal professionals of the future in the library field should have? And for me, when they asked me that question, I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I could say 40 things, but I know the 40 things I thought in library school would be important didn't even exist 3 years later. It was like I couldn't tell someone what they need to be successful 10 years in the future besides be able to deal with change. It's very threatening when things change for us, right? It threatens our relationships sometimes. It threatens our sense of security. It threatens our territory. We don't really know where we fit in. And if you aren't comfortable with change, this is going to cause a lot of problems in the library field. Because when people aren't comfortable with change, they start having counterproductive responses. I'm sure everyone has worked with someone who has a lot of counterproductive responses before. I had no idea how deep that went in the library field until I worked in a library. And I was like, wow, there's some people here with some really low emotional intelligence, that when things get tough, they turn into the worst version of themselves. You don't want to be that. Those aren't the people that are going to get tapped for opportunities. Because one of the things I loved about the library field was if you have the ability to be authentically you, to bring your gifts to the table, and to work well with others, the opportunities are just going to fall in front of you, left and right. You don't have to seek them out. People are going to be asking you, can you help me with this? Do you want to be on this panel? Do you want to do this presentation? Do you want to help me write this thing? And you'll be able to get out there and do so many things with so many different people, be involved in so many projects, not only within your specific place that you work, but on a really grand scale for the library profession. There's so much opportunity out there. So if you can get your emotional intelligence sort of in line, the sky is the limit. So for me, it was always emotional intelligence. When I was younger, mindfulness was big for me, mindfulness and meditation, because I was sort of a closet Buddhist when I was a teenager. I put it aside, and the more I dove into emotional intelligence, there is a course at Google called Search Inside Yourself that one of the first employees at Google, he calls himself the Jolly Good Fellow, designed. And it's literally mindfulness. And it's using mindfulness to teach you how to be emotionally intelligent so you can be more successful in your job. They offer it at Google because it makes all of the employees obviously better workers. It makes you happier, but it also makes you happy in your personal life. And the guy that started it, his secret goal is he wants world peace. And he was like, but since it also makes people better employees, I was able to get Google to pay for me to design the course. Very brilliant. But it's sort of, that's why I'm really into mindfulness. It's a way of building your emotional intelligence. Because up until I hit the mindfulness portion of emotional intelligence, I was doing a whole lot of other activities to help with my emotional intelligence. And it just never all really clicked. I wanted a one-stop shop. Like, look, I want to be emotionally intelligent, but I don't have a lot of time. I'm not going to sit and read all this stuff and do all these things. Is there just something simple, like a gym I could go to for emotional intelligence and show up and do it? Well, that's what mindfulness is. So when Charlotte Law fell apart and I was really sad, mindfulness sort of came up. I was using mindfulness to get through the whole process. But what I always wanted to do was be a prison librarian. During my very first class in Foundations, they brought in some different librarians to talk, and one of them was a prison librarian. I don't know what it was. I wanted to be a prison librarian so badly. I went home. I was in my 20s at this point. I went home, told my dad, and he looked at me like, absolutely not, girl. That is not going to happen. So, of course, when everything from Charlotte Law sort of fell apart, I was like, you know what? I'm going to look into being a prison librarian again. For me, I struggled with mental illness a lot when I was younger. And for me, sometimes my home was a prison, sometimes my head was a prison. So the plight of the prisoners, if you will, resonated with me a lot. And books were one of my salvations because it offered a chance to escape, but also I'm a firm believer in good books make good people. Books teach us emotional intelligence in a sense. If you read the right books, you learn more about yourself, you learn about others, because you get that backstory. So I started looking into doing prison librarianship, and more stuff popped in front of me instead of prison librarianship on mindfulness stuff. And I was like, well, you know, if my goal is to help the prisoners in this way, what better way than mindfulness? So at that point, I went and got my certification at a place in Charlotte, and I did my field work with a group called Youth Meditation. I work with them now. We work with high-risk kids usually, so these are usually children that are homeless or at Title I schools, that sort of thing, because they have no personal agency in their life, and giving them the gift of their breath to be able to help them with stress, to be able to help them focus, to be able to help them reach their goals, is really one of the most valuable things you can hand them, because no one can ever take their breath away from them. No matter what their life looks like, they have their breath in their back pocket. So I do that work, and at first it felt like it was getting away from being a prison librarian, but over the last year with the children I've worked with and hearing the number of family members they have in the system, and just the ways that they expect their life to follow a very certain trajectory, it made me realize that what I'm doing right now is building the compassion that I need to be able to go into the prisons and be able to affect change. So mindfulness and a mindfulness journey can also help you find what it is that you really want to do and be able to trust the opportunities that come your way. Because mindfulness, now that y'all know me, I'm sorry, I wanted to make sure we were meeting as friends, so I had to tell you my story. So y'all might feel comfortable talking to me. That is an emotional intelligence thing called vulnerability-based trust. When you talk to someone and you're very open about who you are and your struggles and what interests you, you build trust. You build trust by opening yourself up first. And this is an emotional intelligence principle. So really, mindfulness and mindfulness meditation is all about connecting your mind and connecting your body. Our minds are out here, flying around in 50 million places, right? While our bodies sit right here. Even while you're sitting here trying to talk to me and listen to me, your minds are probably thinking a whole bunch of other things. This is normal. But what we do during mindfulness meditation and during formal breathing practice and that sort of thing is we connect our mind and we connect our body. We put them back together again. Because our body feels what our mind is thinking. So when our mind is thinking all these different things, our body's never relaxed. And when our mind and our body come together, we get clarity. We get relaxation. We get peace. It's kind of nice being a meditation teacher because you're not teaching anyone anything. Every one of you has peace. Every one of you has happiness. Every one of you has the truth about what you should be doing and how to get there and your steps inside of you. And all I do is help you listen to it, which is really easy compared to teaching someone how to do something. Because we have this saying in mindfulness meditation that our heart is always open. Our heart's always listening. Our heart is always okay with everything, but it's our mind that's closed. Our mind passes judgment. Our mind decides things are good. Our minds decide things are bad. And it's this deciding things are good or bad that creates stress. It creates resistance. It creates a pushing away and a clinging that makes us suffer, that keeps us distracted and keeps us from being able to see what we really need to do and feel the way that we want to feel. So what we'll do is I want to start with some deep breathing, because deep breathing, again, is the essence, it's the building block, if you will, of mindfulness meditation, our breath. Mindfulness meditation, you can use your breath to connect. You can also use your physical body sensations, like how the chair feels around you, if my hands are on this, how my hands are feeling. You can even use sounds around you, because listening to the sounds actually quiets your mind. But we find the breath is the easiest. You can feel the sensations going in and out. You're always breathing. So it's one of the easiest ways to start tuning in, but there's no wrong way to do it. So if you find that it's easier for you to tune into sounds or to do sort of a whole body scan instead of focusing on that breath, you can. But the breath is such a small thing compared to my whole body sensations or all the sounds going on that it's very easy to make a laser focus on it, to make yourself go down into your breath. So we will start with some deep breathing. Now, I teach little kids. So we breathe in through our nose like we're smelling a flower, and we breathe out through our mouth like we're blowing out a candle. When you're doing a deep breath, really the only thing in the world you need to worry about is sitting up straight. You'll notice if you want, you can lean over and try and take a breath. You'll find it's hard to do. But if you sit up straight, give your lungs plenty of room to expand. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Get your legs however comfortable you want. You'll find you can do this sitting, you can do it laying down, you can do it standing. But the important part is have your back straight, give your lungs plenty of room. Now, when we breathe in, you might find it's hard to take a deep breath in. Some people struggle with that at the beginning. The problem is you probably never exhaled all the air out of your lungs. When we're doing our breathing, focus more on getting all the air out of your lungs than worrying about pulling in every drop you can. I can promise if you fill up your lungs with every bit of air you can fit in it, that you're going to end up a little lightheaded. The point is to dump all the old air out. If you think about it, we're breathing all day just regular. I never empty my lungs of all the air. And think about everything we get from our air. Like all of the energy we get from oxygen, the way it clears our mind. We want to dump all of the old out and then fill our bodies up with fresh, new air. You'll be amazed at how it feels. So we're going to do 2 with our eyes open. After that, I'm going to ask you to shut your eyes. If you don't want to shut your eyes, that's okay. Some people are really uncomfortable doing that. In that case, just focus your eyes somewhere in front of you, something that's not going to be distracting, and that'll be just fine. So since you can't see what I'm doing, when I breathe in, I'm going to lift my arms up, and when I breathe out, I'm going to put my arms down. We're all friends here. Everyone gets a little uncomfortable breathing in front of people. I know. so don't worry about it. We are all friends. There is no judgment. So we've got our backs nice and straight. And we're going to, again, breathe in through our nose. You want to smell the flower and breathe out through our mouth like we're blowing out a candle. So when we get to the top of the breath and we breathe in, once we get up here, I'm going to hold it for a second. This is something called the sacred pause. This is really useful because I don't know if any of you have ever noticed yourself doing something, but you haven't been able to stop yourself. Like, I know I'm getting mad, but I can't stop myself. You know, I know I'm working myself up, but I can't stop. By building in a sacred pause when we do these deep breaths, we, in a sense, start training ourselves to have that moment between when we get the stimulus and when we respond to it. The sacred pause, too, is really good. So if your mind's racing and you're doing deep breaths, you can pause longer and longer each time, and it'll actually slow your brain down. So the pause is an important part, so be prepared. We're going to pause. I usually count to 3 in my head, but like I said, this is useful, too, that if you want to slow your brain down, you can do some breaths, and at the top, slow down more and more every time. So we are going to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. Here we go. Breathe in. Hold it. And breathe out. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. Close your eyes. We're going to breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. One more. Breathe in. Hold it. And breathe out. Slowly, slowly open your eyes. What do you think? Anyone feel relaxed? Yeah? A little different from regular breathing. Yeah. I always find even when I open my eyes, sometimes things look different. You know, it's like everything looks a little clearer. Everyone online, did y'all do some breathing? Very relaxed. Nice. So yeah, that's literally just deep breathing. This is something when you're stuck in traffic, you can sit and do. This is something you can do if someone is talking to you and you do not like anything they're saying. I use it on my husband sometimes. I will tell you, if you breathe like this in front of someone, they are like, what is going on? What did I do wrong? So in those cases, we have something called a sneaky breath. You will breathe in through your nose and then hold it for 1 second and then breathe back out through your nose. So it looks like this. You couldn't tell I was doing that, right? But it's very good at bringing your mind and body back together. My suggestion is to do your deep breathing, practice it. The more you practice it, the more your body is going to associate a deep breath with relaxing. Again, this is neuroplasticity. The more we practice, the better we get at it. So it seems weird to say practice breathing, right? But I promise, the more you practice breathing, the sooner your mind is going to click that time to relax, where you can even just do one breath in the middle of being really stressed out, and it can just release it all in you. So the more you practice, the easier it'll become. So I'd suggest doing it before you go to sleep and when you wake up in the morning. We're going to do some meditation. If you like meditation, I say meditate also before you go to sleep and when you wake up. But at the very least, do a few deep breaths. Part of the reason that I suggest that is because we like to use our deep breaths when we're having emotional responses we don't like. We're very angry, we're very worried, we're very nervous. And it's hard to remember, right, when we're upset to do something to take care of being upset. But the more we practice at regular times, like going to bed and waking up, the more we build it into our days, the more likely it is when we have one of these negative feelings that we're going to remember to use our breath first. Even the little kids I teach, the ones that practice at night and in the mornings are the ones that by week 2, week 3 are using it when their brother said something they didn't like. Whereas the ones that are practicing at night and in the morning keep telling me, I can't remember to use my breath. And it's because it's hard. It is hard to remember when we have one of these negative responses because we're human beings. Our mind goes haywire. So deep breathing, like I said, way to connect to the mind and body. Very useful for all sorts of things. But mindfulness and mindfulness meditation is sort of a step up from that. So mindfulness, let me take some more. Mindfulness is technically thinking or doing something with a purpose in the present moment with no judgment. So you heard all those pieces. Thinking or doing something, so some sort of action, some sort of thought that you are doing on purpose. You are doing something and you know why you're doing it. In the present moment. So if you find yourself being lost in guilt about the past or worried about the future, you aren't being mindful. You're not in this present moment. The present moment is the only place you can affect change. The past has already happened. Learn your lesson, move on. The future has not even happened yet. It's not even real. You can find success in the present moment that will affect your future in a positive way. You can even heal problems in the past from the present moment, but you have to be in the present moment. So always do a little check, am I in the present moment? And the without judgment piece is the really, really powerful piece. Because that's the part that's really hard, right? You read the emotional intelligence stuff and you go, I'm really bad at emotional intelligence, right? That's our mind judging. This is so normal. This is what we do all day. Our lives are based in judgment. We judge things as good. We judge things as bad. It was a good day at work. It was a bad day at work. You know, I'm really good at this subject I'm learning. I'm not so good at this subject over here. This thing happened. I like it. This thing didn't happen. I'm upset about it. And our mind judging these things as good and bad is what creates stress inside of us. So removing the judgment is a really important step. All this sounds challenging, right? Very simple, but also very challenging. Well, it's hard to do in the real world, but this is why there's a formal practice of mindfulness meditation that sort of teaches you all of these things at once. So I'm going to lead you through a mindfulness meditation. And then we'll talk a little bit after it about what your experiences were, and we'll talk a little more past that. For mindfulness meditation, we are going to start out with some deep breathing. You always want to start meditation with deep breathing because it tells your mind and your body to relax. It gets you connected. It gets you connected to your heart, your soul. It puts you at peace. Because we always say when you are peaceful in here, everything can be burning down around you, and you're still peaceful. I'm telling you, when I have peace, my son can come downstairs and be like, Mom, I forgot to tell you, I need a ride. And then I realize the puppy's run outside and is barking at someone, and the cat just brought something in because she's mad the dog's outside. And I can just be like, whatever, I have a hilarious life. And then there's other times, if I'm not at peace, I can have my favorite pizza in front of me. I've got the new episode of the show I want to watch, and it's like, nothing is good. It's really all about what's inside of us. So we want to do that deep breathing to sort of put us in the right place first, to get us linked up. Now, once we've done our deep breathing, you're going to tell your mind and your body to relax. Everyone already knows how to relax. You may not know you know how to relax, because you may not have felt it in a while, but everyone knows how to relax. So if you tell your mind and your body it's okay, they will do it. They're just waiting for a signal from you. Now, once we've relaxed, now comes the fun part. You're going to focus on your breath. You're not going to be breathing in a specific way anymore. You're just going to watch yourself breathe. You're going to breathe in and out, in and out. Watch yourself breathe in and out. If you feel the need to, you can say in and out as you go in and out. You can even add commentary like, that was a short breath. That was a long breath. You're welcome to do that. But remember, we're not judging. So don't be like, God, my breath is so long. Or that was a short one, Ashley. Stupid. We're just watch the breath. No big deal. But an interesting thing is going to happen while you're watching your breath. Unless you're a guru at this point and are amazing at maintaining your focus. Our minds are more like our breath than our heart. Our heart, if you think about it, just goes boom, 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 boom. Sometimes it beats fast, sometimes it beats slow. I can't do anything about it. My breath, I can breathe fast. I can make myself breathe slow. I can even hold my breath if I want to hold my breath. But if I stop paying attention to my breath, I'm just going to start breathing, right? So our minds are like that. We can make them do things on purpose. Like if I'm studying for an exam, I'm trying to memorize something, I'm making my brain do something on purpose. But if I'm not making it do something on purpose, or if I'm trying to make it do something on purpose and I'm only so strong at holding it in place, it's just going to start spitting thoughts out. And you can watch it. When you sit there with your breath and you watch your breath, I like to think of myself as sort of a butterfly, sitting on my breath, if you will, rising up and down. Sometimes with my little kids, I'll have them lay down and put a stuffed animal on their stomach, and they'll watch it go up and down. And I'm like, pretend like you're that stuffed animal, just riding up and down on your breath. But you'll watch that river of thoughts go past you. So you'll find as we do this meditation, you'll see thoughts. You might even get distracted and run off with one of the thoughts. You might realize that you're knee-deep in one of your thoughts and you've forgotten to pay attention to your breath. That will happen. I'm warning you. It's going to happen over and over again. When that happens, don't judge yourself. Don't say, oh, man, I suck at this. What you do is say, all right, come back to the breath now. No judgment, because we're training to not judge. This training ourselves to not judge getting distracted actually trains us to not judge things everywhere in the outside world, too. We bring our attention back to our breath, and we start focusing on our breath. We're training our focus. We're training our attention. And we'll watch our river of thoughts. Watch them come and go, like clouds across the sky, or sometimes more accurately, horses running wild in a field. And watch them. Because there's an interesting thing that happens as you sit and watch. You realize you're not putting those thoughts in your head. They're just coming. We are more than our thoughts. So learning that distance between your thoughts, learning that space, you're training yourself. Do you hear how many different things you're training while you're sitting here doing this very simple exercise of focusing on the breath? We're training to not judge. We're training to pay attention to one specific thing, but also pay attention to all of the things around us. We're even paying attention to how well we're paying attention. And we're doing all of this with one very simple thing that we are sitting still to do. And all of these things are changing the structure and function of our brains that will then help us in a million different ways in the rest of the world. And this is sort of the formal practice of it. So let's do a couple minutes. We'll just do about 2 or 3. And then I want to talk about the thoughts that you'll have. If you're uncomfortable sharing your thoughts that you have, I can share mine. Don't worry. I also work with little kids. So, again, I don't think you'll be able to come up with much that I haven't heard. But then again, when I ask if you have any questions, and you actually ask a question, that's something I rarely hear. Usually it's more, I have a dog. Great. Any questions? Is it about your dog? No. I like your shoes. It's good. So, yeah, let's do a couple minutes meditation. Remember, we're going to be just watching. Don't judge. We're going to start with some deep breaths. So get comfortable. This is something you can do sitting up or laying down. As long as, really, the way that I like to think of it, I learned this from the Search Inside Yourself book, and I really liked the way he described it, is you want to sit in a way that makes you feel both relaxed and alert at the same time. You want to be relaxed, but if you're too relaxed, you'll fall asleep. And you want to be alert, but not so alert that you can't relax. So he says, think of something sort of like, a big mountain. Like, I'm going to be a mountain. I want to sit in a way that makes me feel like a mountain. That's majestic and powerful and aware, but at the same time, it's just a mountain sitting there. So I sometimes like to think about that to get me in the right zone of how I'm going to sit, because that really is sort of the balance, and that'll be different for everyone. You might find that meditating, especially if you're tired, you'll need to sit up for it. If you lay down, you will fall asleep. But there's no way to do it wrong. The things that I'm teaching you even today, this is a good time to say this, the things I'm teaching you today are just starting points. You're your own laboratory. It's one of the reasons I really like teaching these little kids this, is it's something they can't do wrong. They don't have to be scared to play around. You're your own laboratory. If you find something works for you, it works for you. That's why I say when I come in as a meditation teacher, it's more to share experiences. The more I work with the same people over and over again, the more I learn from them. Like, oh, this is how you see this, and this is something that works for you I had never thought of. So experiment. I'm not going to argue with something that works for you. So this is just a starting point, and if you end up liking it, you can dig into it more. You can experiment a little more with sort of what makes you feel better and what doesn't. If it doesn't make you feel better, don't do it. And if it does, do it more. It's pretty easy, right? So let's get comfortable. And we're going to shut our eyes, or again, if you'd rather focus on a spot in front of you, get your hands in a comfortable position. You can fold them in your lap if you'd like. And we're going to start out with a few deep breaths. We're breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth. Let's breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. 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 Let's do two more. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. One more deep breath. Breathe in. Hold it. And breathe out. Now relax your mind. Relax your body. Relax your mind. Relax your body. Now just breathe naturally. Settle into your breath. Watch yourself breathe in and out. Let your thoughts come and go like clouds across the sky. If you find you get lost in one, don't judge yourself. Gently bring yourself back to your breath. Slowly, slowly open your eyes. Slowly open your eyes. Stretch out your arms and your legs if you'd like to. If you feel sleepy, you can take a deep breath in through your nose and blow it out through your mouth. It's funny, but the intention we have when we do a deep breath actually affects what it does. So if you're deep breathing before you go to sleep, it'll make you sleepy. But if you take a deep breath with the intention of waking up or focusing, it'll help you do that. So, what do you think? How do we feel? No wrong answers.
Feeling that made me realize just how little I relax, period.
Right? I know, right? It's like, this is what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I just felt a weight lift off. And it's almost like I kind of forgot I was in the room for a second. Like, I could still hear a little bit of the breathing around me, but I was like, when I opened my eyes, I was like, oh yeah, I'm still swimming.
I know, right?
Yeah, but
that's awesome. Anyone else?
I had this weird sensation of like my body wanting to do something.
Uh-huh.
It was like, whoa, I need to do something.
Right? It's hard
Yeah,
to sit still.
Yeah.
What's funny is when I was first training, my guru I was working with, he told me I didn't relax enough. He was like, you don't relax. And for 3 weeks, my assignment was to relax. And every week I'd come back in and I'd be like, when I meditate, my mind starts yelling at me for not relaxing. And then I forgot to relax all week long. It took 3 weeks of me meditating for like 45 minutes a day, reminding myself through the whole meditation, judging myself for having not relaxed, to actually remember once in my life to go, wait a second, relax. Because he was like, what you need to do is when you finish a task, breathe and relax. Just one breath. Can you do that, Ashley? I'm like, I got that all day. I did not. And I don't know if that's something everyone does. I do know that the librarians I know are a lot like that. I think people drawn to the library field, and that, because I think librarians, we love the service profession, and we're lifetime learners. So the fact that we serve and serve and serve, and we always want to learn, we always want to do new things, we always want to find ways we can help. Plus, we have home lives, we have families, we have friends, we have hobbies, hopefully. If not, we should get some. And it's really easy to burn out. It's really easy to never give ourselves the time. And it feels strange, to go, wait a minute, this is what relaxation feels like. But our bodies know how to do it, and they're waiting for the cue. It's like your body wanted to relax, but your mind was like, nope, can't do that. That's our mind judging, saying, we need to stop this. In terms of thoughts, say you were having thoughts about that, right? Did that, with the thoughts, once you had those thoughts of you need to be doing something, did you have feelings that came after that?
I had the weird feeling that I wanted to laugh or something.
Uh-huh.
Like I wanted to move my head or something.
Uh-huh.
It was really odd.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of times with thoughts, like I said, they can be clouds across the sky. Mine more often are galloping horses. The clouds across the sky for a very long time did not resonate with me, but the galloping horses through the field certainly did. These galloping horses are our thoughts. But on the back of every one of these thoughts is an emotion. And since our bodies feel what our minds are thinking, then our body feels that emotion. The more we do mindfulness meditation, the easier it is to see the space between having the thought and then the emotion that comes behind it. And these emotions, this is where our stress comes from. And it's not the emotion itself that causes us stress. It's our resistance to it. Stress is actually resistance. It's resistance to what is, and we want it to be something else. So we can have even stress about good stuff. If something good is happening, we can stress ourselves out about that because it's not going to be forever. I can look at my dog and get stressed out because I know that she's going to die before I do, probably. The fact that good things end stresses us out. We don't ever want good things to stop. We don't want the pleasant feelings to stop. And bad things stress us out because we want to pretend like they're not even there, or we want to get rid of them in some way. We never just let anything be. And it's our reactions to these emotions that come along with our thoughts, which we just saw we can't control. They're just popping out in our head. So in a sense, we aren't our emotions either. Our emotions are us. We feel them in our bodies, right? A big piece of mindfulness meditation, too, the more you do it, you'll start feeling these emotions in your body, like how you were feeling the body sensations, right? When we feel angry, we feel a certain way. When we feel sad, our bodies feel a certain way. When we're anxious, our bodies feel a certain way. Our bodies feel the emotions, and the emotions come from the thoughts that we have in our mind. So making space between those gives us a chance to be more skillful with them. Because the fact is, you are never going to have a life without distractions. You're never going to have a life where you don't get sad, you don't get angry, you don't get worried. But what you can do is learn to manage all of this in a really skillful way. Things are going to happen in your personal life and in your professional life that make you have feelings. What do you do with those? Can you trust yourself with them? Do you know that you're going to be able to do productive things with them? And, we're not going to deny the fact that we're sad about something for so long that we end up getting sick or having some random breakdown somewhere, because we don't want to acknowledge the sadness. Are we going to be able to, when we're angry, take that step back and breathe and figure out what we need to do with it? And a lot of that mindfulness meditation practice, that very simple, I'm watching my breath and I'm paying attention to how I feel and what thoughts I'm having, all at once. But my focus comes back to the breath, comes back to the breath, comes back to the breath. I don't judge, I don't judge, I don't judge. Is going to train you for all manner of things. One of the reasons I really like mindfulness meditation compared to some of the other meditation practices that I've done over the years is mindfulness works everywhere. You do this formal meditation practice, great, it's that one-stop shop. But the fact is, you can bring this to every bit of life. If you're driving the car and your job is to drive from point A to point B, you can be mindful about it. I am driving. That's doing something with a purpose. In this present moment, I'm aware of how my body feels in the car. I'm aware of where I am. I'm aware of my breath as I'm doing it. I'm aware of the feelings and the thoughts I'm having. But I keep coming back to my breath. I'm diving into this task. When I'm taking a shower, I am taking a shower. I'm not going to, 20 minutes into it, go, did I wash my hair? I don't know. It's wet. I think I did. Y'all ever done that? I've been so riled up that in the shower I've even washed my face 3 times because I forgot if I did it. Be mindful. Be present. You can continually come back to that breath. Watch yourself breathing. Anytime, you're talking to someone even, you can do it in conversation. You can bring the mindfulness practices to conversation. Really good for difficult conversations. I found through my experience with librarians, we don't like to have difficult conversations. I have yet to meet a librarian that enjoys difficult conversations. I just think people that do usually don't come to the librarian field. We don't like confrontation. We want people to get along or to just avoid it if at all possible. Can we just pretend like nothing's wrong? And it's really good for that sort of thing, for difficult conversations. Or, I don't know about y'all, but I was in technical services, and we were sort of the dumping place of all the complaints from everyone, both in the library and through the entire school. We would have faculty members come and just brain dump all of their misery on us. Sometimes complaining about things to us that, we probably had no business hearing. Sometimes complaining to us about ways that we had messed up when, I'm sorry, it takes us longer than 30 seconds to get your book in the catalog for the students to check it out. And so when you're doing that, when you're in these difficult conversations, you can bring your mindfulness techniques to it. You can watch your breath. Gives you something to focus on while you're listening to the person. Watch yourself breathe in and out. And there's a mindfulness technique that is listening, mindful listening. And you can use it when you're listening to yourself, which is sort of what we do, watching our thoughts, but it's really effective with other people. It's called listen, accept, and let it go. We listen. We really, really listen. Even if you don't want to hear what's coming out of their mouth. Listen to the words they have to say. Listening is a gift of compassion. We all enjoy being listened to, right? Even my little kids in class. They can say, I love it when you listen to me, Miss Ashley. We love to be listened to. So you're giving a gift to the other person because you're listening to them. You're helping relieve their suffering just by letting them dump. But you're also giving a gift to yourself. You're getting information. You're getting information about what the problem is. Now, this can be useful in terms of your organizational awareness, if they're complaining about something that's happening at the organization you're a part of. You can get information about this person if they're complaining about something in their personal life. You're learning more about them. This is going to be helpful for you in terms of your social skills and your empathy. But you also are getting information about the problem. For my little kids, a lot of times they'll have their parents complain to them about certain things, but maybe their parent had a bad day at work and they just came in and started yelling at them about something. This happens in our personal lives all the time. Happens in our professional lives too. Someone comes and dumps on you because they're having a bad day, they're overreacting to something. Well, when you listen to what they have to say, you get the real story. You get the information from them about how they're feeling and what's going on. We're all clever. If you're able to stay present and keep those counterproductive emotional responses, those knee jerks, those push-aways, and you actually can listen with clarity of mind, you can usually tell what's happening. You can figure out, is this a problem that is my problem? Or is this a problem that's their problem? Now, when we listen, we practice acceptance. This is that non-judgment. We don't feel the need to put our 2 cents in to correct things that are incorrect. We accept it. Recognizing that acceptance is not agreement, that's another mindfulness practice that's really, really useful in life. You can accept the status quo of what life is right now. You can accept the present moment. It doesn't mean you agree with it, just like you can accept what someone says to you, even though you may not agree with it. That practice of acceptance is very similar to accepting the fact that your attention wandered during the meditation session. I'm accepting it. It happened. I don't agree with it. I wish my attention hadn't wandered, but I accept it. And then letting it go. That's just like you bringing yourself back to your breath without judgment. Do the same when you're listening to people. Listen to what they have to say. Accept it. And then either, if it's something that you really need to do something about, do it. You should know what to do if you're listening to it with clarity of mind. You know the next step. Everyone knows the next steps inside. We just can't get access to it usually because our brains are flying. We've got our emotions running. Our bodies are feeling things. Accept it. Let it go if it doesn't have something to do with you. And that letting it go for me was one of my most powerful things because obviously I worked at a really dysfunctional life. It closed down after a decade, and I've had my own dysfunctional personal life in a lot of different ways. The ability to let it go, to say this isn't mine, I'm not going to worry about it, it's a weight off your shoulders. It's another really, really powerful lesson that helps with the emotional intelligence. It helps you know sort of where your limits lie. It helps you keep track of what's yours and to not carry around burdens that aren't yours. It helps you know you don't worry as much about other things. This doesn't have to do with me. I need to let it go. Because librarians are at a very high risk for burnout. Again, we do a whole lot of things. We have a passion for service. Usually we have a passion for other librarians. So we'll even overextend ourselves for the sake of other people sometimes. Or we overextend ourselves for the sake of our mission. And being able to let things go, being able to accept what things are, is a really, really, really great skill that'll keep the stress at bay. Because again, our stress is our resistance. It's our resistance to what is instead of what we want to be. And it's our expectations that make us so unhappy. And that stress is going to be where all of the negativity comes from. Does that make sense?
Very much.
Yeah. So does anyone have questions at this point?
Do you have like some suggestions for resources if like, you want to learn more about this, that type of thing?
In terms of resources, my favorite thing to hand people first off and foremost is Search Inside Yourself. Mm-hmm. It's by John Kabat-Zinn. No, it's not. He does leadership stuff. He actually wrote the mindfulness book. But you want Search Inside Yourself. Shade Ming Tin, I believe is his name. I'm terrible with Asian names. I'm sorry to whoever he is. Jolly good fellow at Google. But if you look it up, we had a book club. Again, we were very into emotional intelligence at the Charlotte School of Law, so we had a book club. and we read all these different emotional intelligence books. And at all of our staff meetings, we would get together and discuss sort of what all we had learned. This, of all the books that we read over all the years, was an amazing book because he does a really good job of supporting everything with scientific evidence and bringing in a whole lot of other resources. So it's a great starting place because as you go through it, he pulls stuff from all of these other major works. Like there's a Difficult Conversations book by the negotiation team at Harvard. Great book about difficult conversations, but he pulls in stuff like that. Good to Great. That's a really good book about leadership. He pulls in stuff from that. So it's literally like he went out and took the bibliography of the best stuff and drug it all into this. He also has a whole lot of scientific studies to support stuff, which is huge because mindfulness is sort of a very woo-woo thing. It's hard to prove to people like this is really useful and this is going to help you be a good employee and a better leader, and you'll also just be happier because our default state as humans is happiness. I didn't believe it until I really committed to my mindfulness practice. But our default state as human beings is happiness. And it's our minds and our emotions and our resistance and our judgment that keeps us from it. I'm not saying I'm happy all the time. I'm not that good. But our default state is happiness. And he's all about getting people to that happy point. But it is so good. He's got a lot of exercises in there. I think there's also a course maybe that you could take through it built off of it. It's Google, so it's probably free, but I'm not sure. But the book itself is amazing. I would say that would be your first resource. And this is a personal practice. So this is something that, start experimenting. You know now the basics of meditation and the mindfulness practice. Another thing that we teach is mantra meditation. My guru, he actually studied in India, came over here when he was 40, 50, and was CEO of a company in New York, and then realized that there was not enough mindfulness over here in America, and sort of left the business world and ended up teaching mindfulness in Charlotte. So he also builds in mantra meditation, which is something that he thinks works really well with mindfulness meditation, and for me, actually, it was the most life-changing piece, because I had worked with mindfulness for so long. But like I said, I struggled with mental illness when I was younger, all the way up until my mid-20s. It was really hard for me. But one of the things that happened over all those years was a piece of me started believing I'm poison. I'm poisonous. I get around people and, if I'm in a bad place, I make everything around me really bad and all these other people get hurt by it. I am poison. So through all my mindfulness stuff, I did it all with this paradigm of I'm poisonous, and I'm doing all of this mindfulness stuff to keep me from poisoning other people. So it worked. I was authentic. I connected with people. I had great emotional intelligence, blah, blah, blah. But I couldn't touch the happiness, really. I felt like it was, I almost felt like I was a hologram that I was projecting into the outside world, and I did all these judgments on what's the right thing to do right now. Here it is. It was like everything was a math equation in my head. Mindfulness meditation teaches you that what we think is what our body feels. What we think is what becomes real, if you will. So I remember I had a lesson with him once, and I was explaining to him this I am poison, and he was like, girl, no. He's like, what you think is what you are. If you believe you are poison, you are going to be poisoned. And you will poison everyone around you. We need to rewrite the tape. In a sense, a lot of times we have patterns like this. You may not have I am poison, but you probably have some certain beliefs about yourself on what you are. And they may be negative. The good ones, keep doing those. That's what you should be doing. But if you have certain negative thoughts that you've internalized so much about yourself, the more you do mindfulness meditation, the more you're going to notice these thoughts cropping up again and again. You're going to notice how everything that comes into your brain is sort of done through that Instagram filter. It all comes through with that layer on top of it. And this is the chance to rewrite the tape. So what he had was for a couple weeks, when I meditated, instead of following my breath like I did, at this point I was able to focus pretty well. I focused on a mantra. And I said, I am good, I am happy. I am good, I am happy. And in a sense, it's you're rewriting the tape. We teach our kids this in terms of positive thinking. Negative thoughts don't serve anyone. If you think, I'm stupid, that doesn't help anyone. But the truth does. Maybe you needed to study a little harder. Maybe you needed to ask your teacher for some help. You know, this is a negative thing that is a truth that's useful and valuable. But thinking I am stupid does no one any good. So if you find yourself having any negative thoughts like that keep recurring over and over, this is a good chance to plug a mantra in. And instead come up with something that you want to be. Like if you think, I am just a nervous Nellie that is never going to be able to be brave ever, start saying, I am brave. I am brave. I am brave. You can even do that just while you're driving in the car. I am brave. I am brave. Be like, I'm a badass. You know, whatever it is, whatever you think you're not, whatever it is you want to be, start saying you are. Because our bodies feel what our mind is thinking. And that can be used for really great purposes. So we can literally rewrite how we interact with the rest of the world. So for me, that was actually the most powerful thing I learned through mindfulness, was the changing my paradigm and then being able to relate to the world, realizing that when I didn't believe I was poison, I wasn't. I suddenly wasn't poisonous to people anymore. And it was my thought that I was that was making it happen, if you will. The ways that we relate to people, the filters we relate to people through is sort of what's going to happen. So if you walk through thinking, I'm no good at this, you're probably not going to be any good at it. You know, I mean, you can take it all the way back to how I explain it to my little kids. If they come in and they say, I can't do this math, they're probably not going to try very hard, right? And they're not going to be able to do the math. But if they say, I'm going to be great at this, they're going to study, they're going to work hard, and there's a really good chance they're going to be great at it. So reframing the thoughts that we have is something that you can do the more you become aware of the thoughts. The more you watch those thoughts go by, the more you realize I'm not my thoughts, the more you can start exerting control over them and redirect them to positive places. If you say there's no way I'm going to survive this day and this conversation I have to have with this person, you're probably not. But if you tell yourself this is going to go great, you walk into it, you know you're going to come into it with clarity, do some deep breaths beforehand, breathe during it. Meditation and mindfulness is all about bringing you that clarity. I don't know how many of you have hobbies or activities you enjoy doing at this point. I remember when I was in graduate school, I didn't have a lot. But a lot of times with our hobbies, if we did sports or we played music, we hit this place called flow. Have any of you ever heard of flow? Is it a little bit? Yeah, so flow is, especially for people that do creative pursuits, it's sort of that land where everything's easy. Where it's like, I was a musician when I was younger, and it was that place where it was like you didn't even really have to think about anything, you just knew the next thing you needed to do. Our goal of life is to live in flow. Our goal of life is to find that niche and just follow the flow of I know the next thing to do and the next thing to do and the next thing to do, and everything unfolds smoothly. It's a land where we don't have stress. We don't have friction. We're not worried about the future. We're not worried about the past. We're just here in the present moment. Jazz musicians are one of the greatest examples of flow because they don't know what they're doing next. They're literally riding the wave of the music. And meditation and this mindfulness practice generates flow in your life. It gives you that clarity, and it lets you catch the flow. With librarian fields changing as often as they do, with our jobs being ever morphing beings and things that existed years ago no longer existing, and new jobs that'll be hired in a couple of years that we couldn't dream of. Finding the flow and being able to trust the path is a really, really great thing to be able to do because you won't stress out as much. There was a lot of stress for me when Charlotte Law closed because I was really worried. We always joke in the library field that if you want another job, you have to wait for someone to die, right? I guess there's no jobs. And then someone dies and they say, we're not even going to rehire that position. So there is some unknowns. There's a lot of unknowns. And you have to trust the process, if you will. You have to be aware of who you are, what you want, and you've got to be able to stay focused. You've got to not be distracted by the thoughts in your head. You've got to not be distracted by the people around you, by the other things that are happening. And you want to stay focused on who you are. You know who you are. And somewhere in there, you know what you need to do next. You don't need to worry beyond that next step. And a lot of times our brains will get too far ahead. We'll start planning out, it's great to have a 5-year plan. We should have a 5-year plan, but we should also know for sure what we need to do next and do it. Good to have goals, but keep them flexible because times change. And as soon as we get locked into something up here, we've set an expectation. Expectations are just resentments waiting to happen. Expectations are just stressors, things that are going to disappoint us, and we're going to miss all sorts of beauty along the way. So yeah. I don't know. I find librarians really like mindfulness too because we're into inquiry. We like asking questions. We like understanding things. And this is all about inquiring with yourself. You are your endless research project. What makes me me? What works for me? What am I into? How do I feel? What do I really think? What do I really want? And it turns the whole world into a research project, right? Because everyone you talk to, everything you do is another opportunity to practice this mindfulness and to learn more. And the more we learn about other people, the more we learn about ourselves, the more effectively we can build teams, the more leadership potential we have, the more empathy we have for others, the more we can control our counterproductive responses, the more we know how we're going to react before we actually start reacting that way, and we can stop ourselves. Any questions? Ha! I love you, LaQuanda. I will always do online consultations. Yeah, I am available. So if you want to talk more mindfulness, I love to. I love mindfulness. I love mindfulness, and I really love how mindfulness teaches emotional intelligence. Because I think that's what a lot of the world in general is lacking right now, is emotional intelligence and understanding ourselves, understanding each other, standing by the words that come out of our mouths. There's a whole lot of emotional intelligence that needs to be laid out in every direction. So for me, I get really excited about that sort of thing, and I like to talk. I like to hear what other people have to say. I like to hear their experiments with things. I learn as much from the people I talk to as I do from talking to my guru, as I do from reading my texts. I find that this is a journey that everyone kind of takes together. So yeah, y'all, I guess my email address, someone should have it.
Yeah,
I can distribute it. I have my cards too, if any of y'all wanted a
out
card.
We also send out the recording.
Okay, very nice. So yeah, anyone that wanted to talk more about it. And like I said, I always wish that they taught an emotional intelligence course at UNCG. Because I do think librarians of all people, because come on, well, maybe I do know a couple people that work at libraries that have way too much money and never know, LaQuanda. They have way too much money, they're always appreciated, that sort of thing. But most libraries, you're scrapping. You are scrapping to prove you're awesome, and you are trying to help people in every direction. And one of the best ways you can do that is the emotional intelligence. I used it at Charlotte Law to the nth degree, and it was to the point where they had fired everyone that they could possibly fire, and I was put on this list as redeployed. No one could ever figure out for the last 9 months who was paying my salary, because I was plugged into so many different departments at that point that they just didn't want to lose me. But no one, not even the director of the library at that point, could figure out who the crap was paying my salary. And it was because I had used my emotional intelligence to find a lot of different places to plug in. There wasn't a department on that campus that wasn't like, I'll chip in some money to keep her. And that I is not because I'm so awesome. That's because I was able to leverage the emotional intelligence to find lots of creative ways of being valuable. At the very end, I tried to quit. And they asked me to stay and work 0 to 29 hours a week from home whenever I felt like it.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know, right? And they just pay me hourly, whatever my salary broke down to hourly. It is not because I'm that great. It's because I was able to leverage my emotional intelligence. And they respected what I was able to do. The same thing for the library people that they kept. We had more people. Every other department was getting cut, and the library, we had cuts, but not like the other departments. And part of it, I think, was because we were so plugged in. We knew all the different things that were going on in the school. We knew all the ways that we were able to help. And we were a very clever little team in how we would, we always would call ourselves little puppet masters in the heart. But it was the emotional intelligence. And I think that's a big piece of being successful in the library world going forward, because every year it changes faster and faster. And that's just the nature of information. That's the nature of technology. That's not going to change. We are not catalog cards and people shushing anymore. The library, even the identity of the library and what it is changing every year. Is it now a communal space that we're a social hub? I don't know. Some people say yes, some people say no. We don't know. So having the emotional intelligence is going to help you be able to navigate all the change, and is going to help you be able to find all those places that you can add value. So before we close, we can do a little bit of meditation to leave everyone a good note, unless you don't want me to make you sleepy. Huh? Okay. All right. I was like, if y'all have to drive home, I don't want to make everyone sleepy. All right, so let's get comfortable. Now we are going to be breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth, starting with some deep breaths. Real quick, when I meditate, I put my fingers like this. Basically, our neurons, our energy systems in our body, if you will, are firing all the time. When we hold our fingers like this, we're closing that energy system, if you will. It's now a closed system, and the energy stays within my body. Some people find this is helpful. Some people don't. Up to you. But it's worth trying and experimenting with if you'd like. But that's sort of the rationale behind it, is our body is full of neurons and electrical impulses and energy that's moving through us all the time. And when we close our fingers like this, we are closing the connection. It's now a closed circuit, and the energy stays within us. So the things we're doing, we are now a closed system, and we are inside ourselves doing something. Okay. So everyone get comfortable. We're going to close our eyes. We're going to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. Let's breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. 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 One more. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. Now relax your mind. Relax your body. Relax your mind. Relax your body. Relax your shoulders and your neck. Relax your arms and your hands. Relax your back. Relax your legs. Relax your feet. Relax. Now breathe naturally and settle into your breath. Just watch yourself breathing in and out. Observe the river of thoughts that float past you. If you find yourself getting lost, come back to your breath. Remember not to judge yourself. Focus on that breath. Breathe in and out. Slowly open your eyes. Stretch your arms and legs. Take a deep breath if you need to. It'll bring you back to here and now, and the things we all need to do. All right. Oh, that was good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love to meditate with people. It's actually one of the recommendations, is they say find a meditation buddy. I guess it's sort of like exercise. They say find an exercise buddy. They help keep you accountable. But also there's power in meditating with someone. Sometimes, especially if we're struggling, the power of someone else maintaining mindfulness with us helps us. I know we do a therapeutic meditation program at my studio, and it's for people that have gone through a lot of trauma and are basically using meditation to try and help with the trauma. And sometimes our emotions are so big and so heavy, and the things we're dealing with are huge. I mean, we're not talking stresses that, at work, oh, it was a bad day, but I mean, in real life, there are giant things that we wrestle with that are very real. And sometimes it's too much for us to hold. And having someone to meditate with you, to maintain the mindfulness with you, literally the energies of it and their focus next to your focus can make you steady enough, if you will, to be able to sort of work your way through it. So having a group that you can pull from in that case, having a group you can talk to about your experiences, having someone that you can say, have you been keeping up with it? It's good too, because sometimes they'll be like, hey, have you tried meditating recently? You seem a little high strung. No, I haven't been doing that. So teach people how to breathe. Talk to them about meditation and what you're doing. It's really cute with my kids, because a lot of them will start teaching their brothers and sisters. I encourage them actually to teach their parents, because they'll complain about how their parents, were acting really nasty to them. They don't accept and let it go, Miss Ashley. And I'm like, well, no one taught them how to breathe when they were little. Like, you're getting taught how to breathe. You have to understand, y'all are like 8, and you're going to be superheroes by the time that you hit our age, if you keep doing this between now and then. Like, we're adults, and we have the same feelings y'all do, and we don't know how to handle them any better than you do. So teach them how to breathe. And the number of them that have taught their parents how to breathe is so cute. I've actually had parents that have thanked me because the kid has taught them the basic deep breathing technique. Don't be afraid to share it. But yeah, try at the very least doing some deep breathing in the morning and at night, when you wake up and before you go to sleep. I promise you will sleep real good, and I promise you will start your day, even if you didn't sleep so good, with a little more clarity. If you enjoy the meditation, sit for a few minutes after you do the deep breathing and try out the meditation. Again, Search Inside Yourself is a great resource. And if you're interested in talking more, you'll have my contact information, and I would be happy to talk to any of you about any questions you might have as you move along in your journey. And if this isn't something that you like right now, that's okay. I always tell my students that too. This is just a tool. There are lots of tools people use to relieve stress. This just happens to be a multi-purpose tool that helps you with a million different things with one single tool that always is in your back pocket. So I like it for that regard. But there are other ways to deal with your stress. So if this isn't something for you, that's okay. It could even be a decade from now. You're like, oh, wait a minute, I should try that breathing. And maybe that's the moment for it. So, yeah, thank you guys for having me. Thank you. And thank you to my online participants. All right. Perfect timing. Oh, I'm glad. Thank you, Ashton. You're welcome, LaQuanda. I'll talk to you later. Thank you, Joy. Thank you guys for coming. That was neat that y'all offer it like that. And I'm really impressed it all went smoothly. I'm so rarely involved in an online anything that goes off without a hitch.
This is probably the best it's ever done.
Yeah, this was magical.
We got to practice a lot.
Yes, this was magical. I have not once ever been on something that has just, the technology works great. No one had issues. So I'd say that is a testament to how mindful and focused we were.